Tēnā koutou katoa. Thanks everybody, and look, I have been around a really long time. I was trying to write down 20 years, and that's not true anymore. It's now 25. Don't know where the last 5 years went, but it's very exciting, and it is a huge honour to be awarded CFO of the Year. Kerry, our grey hair is totally worth it. We didn't look like this when we started, did we? And look, Karen, in asking me to come and talk today, sort of suggested that I might be a little bit controversial. I don't know whether I will or not. So what I thought I'd do is make some observations, share some of my experience on the IR program and some of the stuff that we've been trying to do. And maybe just then kind of open the floor for you guys to ask me some questions, because you actually just get the best out of me by asking me stuff. I'm not a massive public speaker. So, and I do have to sort of preface this by saying I haven't spoken to the Treasury before I kind of put this together. So this is not a Treasury view, this is a Lara Ariell view, and it's also not an IR one, because while I'm going to talk about the forecasts, that's not with my IR hat on. So the forecasts are ugly, and we've all heard that, and I do know enough to know that they really are as ugly as we say they are. And the kind of the conversation that we have year after year, and I think every year we've had it, it's this game we play with Treasury. So every year the budget process kicks off, and every year Treasury says there's no money, and every year we go, yeah, right, they're talking about no money for everybody else, but my agency needs money, so we'll get money. And then we invest time, and time is money, in bids, and we invest amazing amounts of time in bidding for money. Bidding for money where we actually haven't put together our investment case. So we're putting bids together for good ideas, and when we get money, we'll then create the investment case to spend the money, not kind of how it's supposed to work. And then we're really surprised and shocked when our bids get declined. And then we do what we probably should have done to start with, which is look at our balance sheets and work out how we can do the thing that we need to do with the funding we've already got. And I think, having been in the public service now for 25 years, it's been the same for years, and we've been through a global financial crisis. We've been through the earthquakes, plural, and now we've got COVID, and it's going to be this time round. There really, really is no money. And so we are going to have to rethink how we think about investment. And I've got here the definition of madness, because it really is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting to get a different result. And in this room, we've got people who can actually make a difference and think about how we reinvent what we do. I guess my next piece is, a bit of what if. So what if we actually did start with our balance sheets? What if, as the investment advisors to our agencies, we worked with our finance teams to actually to look at what's on our balance sheet, and whether with a bit of sensible sequencing, we could kind of shimmy stuff around to make sure that we can do some of the things that are more pressing. So, maybe start with the balance sheet. Maybe focus on what we can do. And I think there's a massive expectation that we kick off these projects and that the rest of the system is just going to immediately be available to deliver what we need when we need it. And in addition to kind of having constrained financial resources, we've got limited capability. And we used to have the luxury of, if we needed extra capability, we'd bring it in from overseas or another part of the country. And I think if you're assuming that you're going to deliver your program on that basis in a COVID environment, you might just have rocks in your head, because it's not going to happen. So if you can't do it virtually, then rethink what you're going to do. I think the other thing that we don't do, and this is a particular passion of mine, is looking at what other people have that we can use. And I don't know how many times I've said, wouldn't it be nice if we could spend the government dollar once and then reuse the investment that we've made? So not just invest agency by agency, but invest at a system level and then reuse. Leverage our existing investment and leverage the capability we build across the public service, as opposed to constantly having to buy in capability. And the Tregaskis Brown team won't mind me talking about this because they actually help us build that capability, and that's something that I really value about the work that I've done with them over the years. I guess, that requires us a little bit to, instead of looking at where we are special and unique as agencies, to look at where we are the same, so kind of seek out the sameness. And my area of kind of expertise is back office. I really like being best actor in a supporting role. And I think after being CFO across, last count, 6 different agencies, if we're special and unique in the back office, every single time it's for all the wrong reasons. The rules for us all are the same. So why do we interpret them differently? And why do we kind of create risk by being special and unique? It just doesn't seem to be a smart thing to do. We often also overcomplicate stuff. And I love technical teams and technical experts dearly, but we've got to flip how we see ourselves as technical experts. And we've talked for years about, wanting to kind of lift out of the collection and collation of data in the back office up to the value add insight type piece. But every time we get the opportunity to invest in a way that takes us up out of collect, collate and into provide and insight, we dive back in and overcomplicate it so we can't get out of there. So it's kind of how do we encourage our technical experts to kind of, that their job, their value is in kind of seeing through that technical complexity to that simple sweet spot on the other side. So keeping it out of the complicator. The other one that I think we need to really be mindful of is what's possible, and that goes back to what can you do with what you've got, and what is possible given the capability that you've got access to, and where might you need to make some trade-offs around timing in order to get things sequenced in a way that makes them really work. I think the other thing is how we think about intellectual property and making sure that when we are doing commercial arrangements with our implementation partners, that we're actually pushing for NZ Inc. to own the investment property. And own it in a way that we can share it with other people. Now, all of these things might sound a little bit kind of far-fetched and a little bit odd, but I just want to share with you a little bit of what we've been doing in IR, which shows that all of these things are actually possible in a large government agency. So I had the privilege for a few years, actually, of sitting on the Treasury's investment panel, which, again, really reinforced to me the fact that there is no money, really reinforced to me how many agencies put up bids without actually having any sense of what they really needed to do or how to do it. And I also was there when the business case for inland revenue got the tick. So 1.5 billion over 5 years. And I thought at the time, wow, that's a lot of money. And I was also quite grumpy because it was also money that needed to be given to inland revenue because actually they hadn't managed their balance sheet particularly well. So while the money was given to IR also got a bit of a slap on the hand, which was well deserved. And they also got asked to make sure that with that investment, it was made in a way that could be reused across the rest of the public service. And that's probably something that's not well known about the IR business case. And so when I got the opportunity to go to IR and to look after the CFO role and the enterprise services, which is the replacement of our FMIS, HRIS and payroll systems, I said to Naomi, look, I'll amazing opportunity, but I want to be able to do it in a way that we can really leverage the investment for the rest of the public service. And she said, yep, let's make progress on this. You can touch anything you like, but don't touch people and don't touch technology because we've got too much going on in that space. I was like, okay, cool. Where do I start? And the answer was process. So instead of turning inside of IR and documenting all of our special unique business processes, we sort of asked for some advice on if we bought an off-the-shelf process model that was based on international best practice process, would that be an accelerator to us getting to a software and platform as a service cloud-based offering? And the answer was yes. So instead of doing a requirements gathering stage, which was going to cost 3.3 million, we bought a process model from the Australian or New South Wales government. We bought it for 50,000 Australian dollars because they were kind of, wow, what a cool idea. We'd love you to use our stuff. And then we spent about 1.2 million adapting it so that it was fit for purpose for New Zealand government agencies to use. And we deliberately kind of said New Zealand government agencies, not IR, because we didn't want it to be special and unique. We just wanted it to be best practice process. Then we got the go-ahead to start investing in technology, because all of a sudden the notion of moving IR's back office to the cloud became a lot less risky, because people had bought into the idea that we could use common process and software as a service. So we weren't going to be touching any of the heritage environment that people were nervous about in terms of the kind of conversion of the tax and social policy system. So we've got the ability to go. And then we worked with our implementation partner, who was Accenture, to sort of say, hey, if we do this, if we configure Oracle software as a service to common process, we want to own the IP so that we can give it away to any other government agency who wants to use that config or any of those program artefacts coming after us. And Accenture said, yeah, sounds reasonable. So that's basically what we've done. You talk about it quickly and it sounds really easy, but you know, it has been having a sort of a vision of what's possible, and then really kind of holding fast to that vision. And at the moment we are in a process of sort of learning how to share that across government. That's also not easy. I was talking to a few people who are involved in working in system, cross-system projects and work programs at the moment, and I think that's probably something else that we need to think about, is how do we work more across the system, how do we learn to share, how do we move from essentially what we call a collaborative kind of environment, but we're actually reasonably competitive. So how do we kind of move from co-opetition, which is that kind of collaborative but we're still competing, to a truly collaborative environment, and how do we actually learn to use some of the agility that we need when we do have scarce resource to do things quicker, because like I said before, time is money.